Bob Book Babies, have you any news? One for the better man, one for you. Here we go with my old friend John Irving. John Irving and I have a vexed history. I first got to know John Irving as an impressionable young man, just on the cusp of young manhood, when my father, very ill advisedly, took me to the movies to see The World According to Garth. One long meditation on castration. Yes, it was very dramatic. However, I've read him several times since and enjoyed him a great deal. So, a lot of love for John Irving, and most recently fell into my hands at a hostel I was staying in when I first arrived in Thailand. A title called Setting Free the Bears. Now, doesn't that title grab you? Sounds like it's going to be a Robbins book or even a Hitchhiker's Guide type book. Anyway, it does start out as a picaresque, very much. That's what drew me in, and I'm a little mad at it. In the beginning, we're following these two fellows who are motorcycle enthusiasts. In fact, memory serves, they meet in a motorcycle shop. One is Siggy, and the other is Graf. They are Austrians. Okay, so Siggy and Graf. Uh, which one of these guys is the ringleader? Who's pulling who along? Who is the better or worse influence on the other? Um, uh, this is like reminding me of Damian, um, by Hesse. Um, this is good stuff. These two boys running around. Now they are a bit ne'er do well. They steal stuff when they not viciously. Just if they need a little bit of food, or I mean they do some fishing and stuff like that as well. But if they need a little food or they need this or that, they sort of help themselves. Now eventually they're caught in this one village, and well, Siggy makes it into the mountains, but poor old Graf, he is caught and he has to um, work it off for the municipality. And the work that they put him to is also very interesting and possibly symbolic. He's made to be a beekeeper with this fellow Kef, who's the driver of the truck that's hauling these beehives around. Kef is a bit of a thug. He's also an interesting character. Let me know what you think Kef is all about. What is his role, if any, as influence on Graf? The other thing that's going on in this village is that Graf is falling in love with this girl. Now, they had some sort of casual sexual encounters at the zoo at the beginning of their travels around. But still, Graf strikes me as really sort of unexperienced, sort of young love, first love kind of thing. And definitely the girl, she's, I think, just barely a young lady herself, so very young. She's come to this village, I believe from the city, I can't remember now, from another region, to work in this, I believe in the place where Graf has his room. Yeah, she's like the maid or so whatever, that kind of thing. So they have this sort of love story going on. So you can see that Graf is really being drawn into the adult world, right? Relationships. This girl is all about, look, if I give myself to you, it's marriage thing. It's serious. And into the work world, right? Even into the civic world, because he's working for the municipality, for this village, and even into husbandry. He's doing animal husbandry with the bees, right? Apiary, and productive, right? Work. Meanwhile, Siggy's off in the mountains, and we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting for Siggy to come rescue him. And Siggy comes. Spoiler, as always. Siggy comes to rescue him, but it does not go to plan. Let's just say he doesn't survive the bees. So now the book completely turns on its head, and this little sort of blurb I'm reading right here says, oh, there's a little section It's supposedly narrated by Graf about Siggy's backstory. But it's not a little section, it's the whole rest of the book, basically, except the ending chapters when they go back to the zoo. So now this book becomes a war novel, and a very interesting one if you are not aware of Austria's um, problematic uh, relationship to Germany. In many ways, from the way it's presented in this book, we can see Austria as also one of Germany's early victims. Obviously, we know they rolled over Poland, Czechoslovakia, but in many ways they rolled over Austria as well. And certainly the family, Siggy's family, they eventually take in this guy Vratno, who's mute for a while there when he first survives the war. He's brought in, and he's eventually going to become Siggy's father. I think I've got that right. So basically, this is his grandparents, I guess, who raised him. The mother takes off. I don't remember why. So we follow Vratno for the rest of this, and he's basically Siggy in a different generation, except that Vratno survives the war, whereas Siggy doesn't survive his young misadventures. And I think that might be a key to why these two stories, if, first of all, do these two stories fit together, do you think? I thought not. I thought these are two different books smushed together. And apparently this was his master's thesis, so I'm not sure, maybe the picaresque was his, what he's young writing, and then later, as an older author, he added this whole second heavily researched, but not regurgitated research part about the history of Austria during the war. It felt like they were sort of jammed together. But if they fit together, I think it's gotta be something to do maybe with, what do you think? Survival and then why you survive, Vatno makes it through all the war, and here his progeny, Siggy, his line ends so stupidly, so accidentally, so suddenly. Yeah, so I think that's probably a key there. All right, what else should we talk about in the long Austria during the war part? Another thing that connects them is motorcycles, because Vratno is a motorcycle. I think is he the mechanic for a motorcycle unit, so Nazi unit during the war, and Javotnik, you could say he's Yugoslav. I don't remember exactly where, and he's also on the run from a family that he was staying with, where he also had a sort of misadventure and had to go on the run. And then he's in with this Nazi motorcycle unit, and he's on the run from them because he's supposed to kill someone, and he doesn't want to do it. So he has to take off. And then he's spotted stupidly in a bar. And he's got a friend along with him, and rather than betray his friend, Vratno sacrifices himself, basically. And one of his old motorcycle unit walks into this bar where they're drinking. He says, recognizes him, and so he also kind of dies sort of stupidly. So, all right, and then so what's with the bears? All right, this is this last bit. I guess I meant to tie it all together again after all this history. Graf, goes back to this zoo. He's hiding out in the bushes, scouting it out night after night with his girl, getting frisky in the bushes, to set free these bears. To what? To honor Siggy? Again, it's just a sort of silly, useless gesture, and violent gesture. Doesn't end well for the animals, doesn't end well for the people who run into the animals. And then again, finally, so what's with that symbolism, right, of throwing open the zoo? And why bears? Why bears? Why not setting free the lion, setting free the monkeys? Um, right, so those are some of the themes and wonderings about this really interesting book, or as I would argue, perhaps two books smushed together. Picaresque, which I really enjoyed, and then an interesting war novel. Um, well, it's not, the thing is, I wasn't in the mood for a war novel. I didn't sign up for a war novel. Had I done so, I would have been pleased with that one. But one has to be in the mood for a war novel, and it's not necessarily the same mood as a fun old picaresque. Even one that ends tragically, as their picaresque does with the bees. So, what's with the bees and the bears? Tell me all about it, folks. Looking forward to your contribution.